All right. My buddy Aaron and I are here today looking at a mix from Wess Meets West. The song is called Transition. This was done we finished it up in June of 2023, and it's going to come out late spring, summer of 2024. This is the first song on the new Wess Meets West record, and it was mastered by Joe Lambert, a wonderful mastering engineer. Let's dig into this a little bit. All right, while this is playing, let's start with the two bus just because everything is kind of affected by that. So Joe mastered this, so I would have turned down the limiters for him. Joe did a great job mastering this. I mixed this with Andy Porta. Andy and I kind of mix all the West stuff together. And we'll go through kind of what was done where. The philosophy of this record was we wanted it to be a band in a room, kind of all playing at the same time, even though we weren't necessarily all in the room at all times. We wanted it to feel that way. And so minimal overdubs. We wanted just the main parts and just the five or six of us that play on the record. And yeah, so two bus. All right, little fab filter, adding some 2 dB at 2K. Little shelf at 20 just to clean up a little bit, and another shelf at 10K, 1 dB. The idea, I think, behind this is that I mix pretty dark in general, so this kind of helps me just brighten everything up as I go. I love what this does. I park this pretty much at these settings on like all mixes. I'll mess with the process knob depending on how much of that saturation I want. Sometimes I'll mess with the input depending on how hard I want to hit the entire two bus. But to me, it just pushes the mix forward, and that's what I like. I've tried to actually get rid of as much as possible on my two bus, but I cannot get rid of this. I think it sounds great. Similar with the Pultec, I've tried to find ways to not have to use it. Let's hear it. So yeah, we're adding a little AK. That's a pretty standard setting. I'll add, usually I like to do that, but we didn't do that for that mix, but that's all right. So usually I like a wide Q on that. It adds a little volume, it adds a little width. Certainly it brightens it up a little bit. Sometimes I'll mess with the low end if I need it. So SSL G-Comp doing its thing. I'm probably hitting that a hair harder than I should have, but hindsight is 20/20. It's mixed in parallel a little bit, so like 75%. Does it have a number? No. About 75, 80% wet, so it's still gonna blend in some of the transients. And these are the attack release ratio, and my side chain, of course, making sure that the low end is not going to cause this to pump as much. I've tried pretty much all the different SSL plugins. We have a 500 series here as well, but this is the one I like, and I can't get the other ones to sound the way this one sounds, at least exactly like it. There's other great ones, but similar to the Phoenix, I've tried to get rid of this on my two-bus, and I miss it when it's gone. I will mess with the effect. I'll blend that down depending on what kind of music it is. For a natural drum kit and kind of rock tune, it's usually pretty happy up there. As soon as you start to run a lot of like 808s or electronics through it, sometimes I'll lower that. And you also got to watch your input. The God particle was very new when we were doing this. Let's see, a louder section here. It's not a subtle plugin. I try to use it subtly. So I'm pushing 2 dB in the lows, a dB-ish into the high in the multiband. I hate to say it's just a better button, but it kind of is. I have spent a lot of time messing with this. And yeah, I just really like what it does. It's aggressive. Don't use it haphazardly. Don't just throw it on your mix. Use it, play with it, see what it's actually doing. And if you like it, stay with it. But be aware that it's pretty aggressive. And then a final L2, really just for reference levels for when we're sending mixes off to the other guys in the band. It also will catch any final like overs. From my understanding, this is not a true peak limiter, so this will let through some digital over, some overs. So this will keep out those overs. Matter of fact, let's see what happens here. Maybe they fixed it in an update because it doesn't seem to be doing it now. But I also really just love the way this sounds. So that's my two-bus. Let's hear it with and without. And this is going on pretty early in the mixing phase. Not really in the tracking phase, but I will throw most of this on there and mix into it. Or maybe about halfway through, getting levels and such. These mix breakdowns are really fun, and they're really interesting way to look at your mix, but it feels really awkward because it's not at all how we mix. I don't want to underestimate like the leveling and the panning. We look at the plugins, we look at all that, and that's all really important for tone shaping, but the levels at which these things are at and interact with each other, and the automation, so like the clip gain automation. Let's see, yeah. The bass has a little bit of clip gain. The guitars are gonna have probably a ton of clip gain automation. So it's fun to look at the plugins, but I want to reiterate how important just the tracking, the editing, and the leveling of these things out is probably more important than a kick drum, random kick drum EQ. But that's also why we're here. So spend most of your time recording something well, and then balance it out really well, is because that's going to be part of it. Let's look at the drums. So also just in general, you can check out the song, but it stays at 142, and then we raise the tempo here in this section to 148. So let's listen to the drums here. So that's Andy Porta on the drums. What a monster drummer. Let's look at this kick drum here. He recorded this up in Maine. Okay. So that kick drum is going to go through its own drum bus. We'll go through that, but initially by itself, and let's mute this for now. So that's the original kick. We got the Fab Filter gate. This is not bad. I've been switching over to like the Slate gate these days. So we're carving out this a bit. So that boxiness, that's what we're hearing, really get cleaned up. Little 60-ish. I say 60 because I don't really care that it's 53. I'm not looking at that and really deciding like at 53. I'm going around 60 and boosting, if that makes sense. We're trying to tame some of the high end. When I'm mixing similar to the leveling, I'm not really looking at these values. I'm listening, I'm playing with these things, and I want to make it, sound like I do in my head. It's not really about the exact settings. I mean, you could write this down, you could steal these presets, but it's not about the exact setting. Adding a little bit of 60-ish. What else? A little bit of high end here, 5K, filtering a little bit of compression. 160s and parallel. So this is a transient designer. That's really tightening up the sustain. We're losing some sustain here, adding a little bit of attack. That's doing a lot to the sound. But you can do, there's a lot of different versions of this, the transient designer. 560. This might be my favorite kick drum EQ, just a little bit of low end. Usually I'll track through the real one here, but we didn't do these drums here. We did them up in Maine. And we didn't have this, so I added it here at the end just to get a little bit more of this low end, a little bit more attack. Nice. And then we did add a sample. We usually do that pretty late in the process when we're like, the mix needs a little bit more. So let's hear this sample. I print the samples almost right away. Andy might have done this actually. He might have printed this. I think he did. I have no idea what sample that is, but we use trigger. And then you'll notice we go through, and I've said this before, but we print the trigger so that you can really make sure that every single hit, and I'll go through every single hit and make sure it's not missing. Like right there, for example, was a moment that it didn't quite grab them, so we edit those and put them in. So let's hear those two together. We're not using the sample to really replace the sound. It kind of just gives it a little bit more depth. Let's hear the snare. Nope, there's no snare there. All right, again, Andy's just, he's such a great drummer. So we got another, a gate, doing pretty little. If you have trouble with gates like I do sometimes, the range, play with your range, because you don't have to turn your gate all the way on and off. I just play with it where it's reducing it, but not necessarily getting rid of the whole signal. I find that really useful for someone like me that has trouble with gates.
Could someone open
Yep. Is Zaire not there? All right. Sorry, we'll edit that out. What's up, Jim? How was Norway?
How you doing?
Did you read that book?
No.
No.
I
Yeah, see? Nice. Time well spent, right? It's good to see you. Mm-hmm.
Your mic is on like the flappy part of your shirt.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Would you like it there or no? Is that better? Okay. Yeah, I'm sure it's fine, yeah. Could you hear it like moving a bit?
Just
Okay, yeah. I'm sure it's fine. Good? All right. So yeah, if you fucking suck at gates like I do, the range knob is really important to making it blend into your sound a little bit better. Oh, look at that. We used another gate. 2 gates. Crazy. Yeah. Yeah, I'm always trying to get cymbals out of snare drums. I used to use that was that Wilkinson's debleeder, and then they don't really make that. They don't support that anymore. But Slate got this debleed on their gate, so it's working really well. Again, look at the range. It's at 4, so it's really only turning it down, a few dB, but it's enough to really make a difference. So that's a big help to the sound. Snare drum cutting around 85, 3 dB around 180, taming some high end a little bit. Big fan of the flexibility of the Fab Filter stuff. SSL, doing almost nothing. A little bit of filtering, like a dB and a half at 5K. Compressor. Yeah, that's doing a little bit. I like the compression that's built into that. 33609. That's really working. Maybe too much. Now that I'm hearing that, I would probably blend in a little bit. I think this is probably 100% wet. Hearing it now, I might blend in a little bit more of that uncompressed sound, but, rock and roll. Decapitator. Looking at this, I have no idea why we did that, but I do love this plugin. It kind of adds a little thickness in the low mids, sure. Again, this is such a weird process to go back and look at what we did. It's how it feels, and even if this just made me feel better, then that's great. That's reason enough to do it. So this is doing a little bit of limiting, and I started doing this more and more where I throw an L2 on stuff just to squeeze it a little bit, kind of for overall volume, so that the mix bus isn't having to do all the kind of, I don't want to say mastering, but all the level lifting in a song. This might get me in trouble, but I do use limiters quite a bit. We did add, okay, the reverbs for the snare are important. We used the 7th generation, the Sunset Chamber. I'm a huge fan of the Brocasti reverb. I'm actually surprised we didn't print through it for this. So that's just this. That's just that Sunset Chamber. And we also have an AMS non-lin, which I like just a very little bit of. Can't even hear it. It's just like tucked in, just tucked in a little bit. I think you can hear it. I stole that from Andrew Shep's like Green Day mixing tip. And so while we're here, let's see, we'll get to that double verb and all that. We did add a sample as well. So in this case, I actually hear what this is doing and like what this is doing. The dark. It's taming some of that high end. I like that a lot. Again, we would have printed this snare. Let's see if there any spots it messed up. Not really. Okay. So we would have printed the snare through the trigger and made sure it was working. Toms. So these are all just close mics still. Toms. Let's see what we got here. We would have gone through and muted the toms when they weren't playing. Oh, I think those are automated, yeah. So automated the gates to go off at certain moments. A little bit of filtering, a little bit of nope. Tiniest bit of compression there, not a ton. CLA toms. Again, just round it out, turn it on. It's really like an on-off. It's pretty aggressive, even just turning it on and off. But we like what it does, and then trying to carve out that sound a little bit afterwards. So again, trying to cut some mids, add a little bit more of this 90-ish, trying to tame that cymbal bleed in the toms. I guess even more so. So a little bit more carving out a 300, a little bit more 80, carving out even more of the high end. Yeah, so it makes them a little thicker. We're sending that through that Sunset Chambers as well, and R-Bass, which is, R-Bass is on the kick as well. R-Bass is a pretty important part of. Let's find another moment with the kick. Yeah, I mean, it's not life-changing when you hear it like that, but I need this. The 60 with the kick drum and the toms, it sounds really good to me. So that's all sorry, one more thing on the toms. The wonderful BBE, so I'll send the toms into the BBE over here, all the way up. And then I will mix that in as well. Kind of adds that polish. I hate to use that even as a term, but it just kind of hypes them up. And I haven't really found a plugin that can do that as well as the BBE. So $150 kind of cheesy rack unit for the win. A little R bass on that as well, and a little of the non-lin reverb for whatever reason. So all these close mics are going through. So actually the snare, the samples are not going through this, are not going through this compression. So let's start with the parallel chain actually. So this is a parallel 1176. Idea behind that is to crush the living crap out of it. This is just cleaning up a little, wow, like almost nothing, 30. That's cleaning up the crush channel a little bit. And then on the close mics directly, we have this. A Pultec doing a little bit of work at 5K. 2500. A little bit in parallel. So doing a little bit of work there. Nothing too outstanding here. Inflator. I think we were just looking for a little bit more vibe, a little more control. So we reached for that. I really like this. It's a little unwieldy sometimes. And we mixed it, we did it in parallels. So this is similar to what I would do with like a RMS 124, that compressor. I think this just came out when we were mixing this. So this is in parallel, like 25% wet, so pretty subtle. I actually tested out the hardware back in like 2014 with that Wess record and really liked it, but never could afford it. It's not that expensive, but we just didn't reach for it. And then a little bit more control for sub-lows, I suppose. So that's the close mics. Close mics go through that and this crush, and then the overheads, rooms, and samples. Well, let's do the rooms first. The overheads and the rooms. So on the overheads, little EQ. Oh, cool, my console just decided to stop working. So a little bit of fab filter. This is probably to get a little bit more beef out of the snare. Cutting some sub lows, cutting some highs, taming some cymbals, pretty common. Magic Death Eye, I really dig this. Again, probably trying to get even more out of the kick and snare there, getting rid of some of that mud, 300. And my favorite plugin, Soothe-ish, getting the cymbals and a little reverb. This has its own devil reverb. I call that the devil reverb because it has this devil lock. It's just kind of this really distorted room. Room mics, just some really basic EQ, filtering out. I do this so I can let the kick drum really speak instead of having it do that in the room mics. Same thing here. Probably some parallel. Nope. So just crushing that. Nice. Trying to tame some of those cymbals, a little bit more of that out of the kick, clean up some mud. So the close mics and the room mics would all live together on this drum master here. This is just to get a little bit more out of the drums, probably towards the end of the mix. We just wanted more. And yeah, this is a collaboration with Andy mixing. He's the drummer, but also mixing and editing these together. We wanted the band to feel like we were in a room together. There's some percussion overdubs here. Let's get my console back here. We wanted to keep it really raw. So there's not a ton of percussion overdubs. So some rain stick. Oh, and this part we did print through some different reverbs for this part. I don't remember how we got that sound. I want to say Andy printed that through something up at his studio, but I'm not 100% sure. All right, moving on to the bass. Eric Alfizi, legendary bass player. All right. So that would be his Jaguar bass into his pedal board. This would be a clean version of that. And then this would be with pedals. So let's see, I'm sure there's a distorted. Yeah. So that's his distorted sound. That's his clean sound. And we would blend those together for most of the record. When you have distortion on bass, it sounds great, but you start to lose some low end sometimes. So having the clean and the distorted version of it is a nice way to get that. There's a lot going on here. Let's hear the clean sound first. So we got a trim for, we flipped the phase on that. So the phase relationship's probably to the pedals. So that's our settings for that. Pretty chill settings, but it really helps. Going through an amp, cleaning up sub-lows, nothing too crazy with that. This is actually probably my favorite plugin. RC Comp, doing about 3 dB of compression, little 3K on the bass. Kind of just makes it poke out. CLA. So that's the clean. Let's hear the distorted. So that's going to be the exact same settings except for the flip phase, and we de-essed this and EQ'd it a little bit more. And probably when he digs in really hard, that'll do something. Again, the performance, the tones we got out of his pedals are going to be more important than anything. Let's hear the bass and the drums together. No console. All right. All right. Let's hear this together. Nice moment of no drums or bass. We really wanted the bass to be like a rhythm guitar and not take up all that space with guitars. I know, at least for my approach, and Nick's as well, but Andy wrote a lot of these guitar parts actually. But I played them in and then wrote some of my own. So this was done. So we did a DI. We always take a DI just in case. But we didn't use the DI. We take that for like reamping purposes. And it looks like I use guitar rig for these ones. I used a blend of guitar rig and the simplifier amp on this record. I had the intention to always go back and reamp my guitars through my Varellin, but I actually really liked how they were sounding, so there was no need to go reamp them. I did these at home. And so I was trying to stick to, as opposed to like other Wess albums, I would have had like 8 guitars here. I was trying to stick to just one guitar part. That was kind of a theme for a lot of the record. So that's a moment where we broke our rules and had multiple guitars. But for the most part, we were really trying to have the guitar parts not like between Nick and I, have them interweaving and not have like 12 guitars going on like we would usually do. But what that made me do is be really selective with the effects. So for instance, let's see. Is this it? Let's see. Well, I'm trying to find this one moment, but I was really particular with the effects for each part, and we printed all those effects are generally going to be pedalboard effects. So each guitar has a little EQ, a little compression, nothing too crazy. Looks like I did add some echo and reverb for some moments. Now Nick, we did mic up an amp, so let's look at Nick's guitars. Nick's guitars we did through his Varellin. We did those here at Mercy University. Would have been a Royer and a U87 on the guitars. I'm really big on getting the guitars right when you record them, so there's not a ton going on here, mix-wise. Similar with my guitar bus here. Let's hear my guitar bus. It's just a lot of tracks because I would just do it by section and get different guitar layers. So very similar so not a ton of mixing going on there, enough, but I can't, and we muted some stuff we didn't necessarily use. The clip gaining and the fading in of stuff and fading out, that all is more important than, any one thing. And then lastly, we have some keyboards from Justin Krass. Let's see what he gave us here. Yeah, so a little like felt upright, or that's a Rhodes actually. I think I actually played on this too. Yeah. Andy might have added some too, but this was Justin for sure. So again, even with Justin, we tried to keep it, instead of having a million layers of synths, just have it be very playable live. The last thing I'll say too is we were really, for an instrumental band, we're really aware of like melody and what is going to catch your attention. So you see a lot of clip gain, you see probably a lot of volume trim as well. Going through the sections and making sure what has the right focus or melody of each moment is really important, and giving space for other things as well. That was a big part of having less instrumentation. I mean, the last West record, it was like strings on every song, extra drums, drum machines, which I love that sound. But for this record, we wanted to just be a little bit more concise and a little bit more of just a band in a room. I think for the next one, I'm sure we'll go crazy and do a whole orchestra again. But this is what we were feeling at the time. Thanks for hanging out with us today.